Hi everyone, it's Robert Farrar here from Robert Farrar's Tea and Tarot, or at least my hands. This is the second of my videos about reading the court cards. The first one was called The Four Kings, and at the beginning of that I gave a kind of little introduction in which I explained why I'm doing this. To cut a long story short, I'm doing it because I feel that there isn't any consensus about the meanings of the court cards, and that being the case, the best one can do is to just do a little bit of research into the traditional backgrounds of these four cards. I did some research because I'm currently writing a book about tarot, and I've talked about my research in one of my other videos. It's called 6.5 Best Tarot Books. But also to in a sense, to give you my top tip. If you're interested in background and traditional meanings of the cards and where they came from, I think the best writer around is a guy called Paul Hewson. He's actually not 100% into the Rider-Waite-Smith as a system. He's sometimes a bit snooty about it, maybe because he knows too much. You know, he knows that there are certain compromises in the Rider-Waite-Smith, or he knows so much about the backgrounds of the cards that he's able to disagree with A.E. Waite and Pamela Coleman Smith about their conception of tarot. But anyway, the thing about Paul Hewson is that he will tell you where these cards come from. And some of the information I'll be giving you in my videos about the court cards comes from him. There are other very inspirational writers who I also refer to, like Yolanda Robinson, for example. Anthony Louis is another one. Ooh, I've got them in the wrong order. Let's start with the Queen of Batons. Okay, well, the Queen of Batons is traditionally associated with Penthesilea, the Queen of the Amazons. These associations go back pre-tarot to the original deck of playing cards, but then they were sort of imported from the original deck into the tarot. So, Queen of the Amazons, this is clearly an image of female strength, and the card does remind us of the strength card, but as Yolanda Robinson wonderfully puts it, we see in the strength card strength combined with humility, and yet in the Queen of Batons, as Yolanda Robinson says, this quality of humility is definitely lacking in our queen. Of all the four queens, she is the one who faces us head on. So she's a full-on personality, okay? I think with the RWS, one must always take the body language very seriously. Not only is she facing us head on, but she has her legs apart. If you go right back into traditional tarot commentators, back into the 18th century or so, there's one called Pratesi's Cartomancer, and this writer just has a one-word description of the Queen of Batons, and the one word is Harlot. So I think reading between the lines, what's going on here is that this is an archetype of unabashed female identity, unabashed female sexuality. Someone who is really up and running as a woman and, how can I put this? and doesn't really intend to let anyone stop her. She is associated with the fire signs. We see here the sunflower. We see lions on her throne, on the tapestry behind her. And so there's quite a lot of Leo energy. We see lions here. And here we see the black cat, which is an innovation from Pamela Coleman Smith, which has stayed with her ever since Pamela added the cat. I suppose that is a suggestion of psychic powers. If we look at the court cards in sort of Jungian terms or elemental terms, it can be quite interesting. So we've got king, queen, knight, and page, and they can be described elementally as air, water, fire, and earth. And yes, there is some disagreement about that, some controversy. That's not how Aleister Crowley saw it, but I think that is how A.E. Waite and Pamela Coleman Smith saw it, and I think that is how they've drawn these figures. So that's what I go with. And then after you've got these ranks, after you've got these elemental correspondences for the four ranks, you've also, of course, got elemental correspondences for the four suits. So we have batons, cups, swords, and pentacles, which are respectively fire, water, air, and earth. So, if our queen here is the Queen of Batons, she is water of fire. Her husband, the King of Batons, was air of fire, and that's quite a combustible mix. He was a bit of an egomaniac conqueror. He was the Julius Caesar figure who was just ploughing ahead and insisting on being followed and insisting on being charismatic. Now, this woman has got water in the mix. Water is very adaptable. Water flows where it needs to go. And so it may be that she is more adaptable than the king, and it may be that she is actually in some ways better at getting her way. I think the Queen of Batons is extremely good at getting her way. She can be quite difficult to resist. She can be quite overpowering. She can be quite dominating. I also found that there are correspondences between the court cards and the minor arcana. These were laid out in systems used by the Golden Dawn. You can look them up. And in this system, the Queen of Batons is associated with the Ten of Cups, which is perpetual success, and the 2 and 3 of Wands, which symbolize dominion and established strength. So this is an archetype really connected with success, strength, and power. So you have been warned, that is the Queen of Batons. Okay, next up, the Queen of Cups. The Queen of Cups then is water of water. So in Jungian terms, she's the most watery of the 16 court cards. I think the Queen of Cups is very self-contained. There is an enormous strength in this self-containment. And if you look at the cup she's holding, it's very special. It's no ordinary cup. Tarotists often read this as the Holy Grail. And I think what that might suggest is that the Queen of Cups has what she needs. She has this object beyond all price, this thing that everyone's looking for. Happiness lies in her own hands. And she understands this on some very deep, maybe even unconscious level. But Queen of Cups types are on some deep level very self-contained, and they can generate their own happiness. The Queen of Cups is notoriously romantic, loving. She loves to love and to be in love. She's dreamy. She's poetic. Of course, when I say she, we're loose about gender these days, aren't we? Could be a woman, could be a man, could be an artist, could be a healer. Traditionally, it is a woman to whom someone may owe happiness. So in old-fashioned sort of fortune-telling terms, this is the woman who has brought happiness into my life. In terms of association with minor arcana cards, she's associated with the 2 and the 3 of cups. You know, the 2 of the cups symbolizing love, the 3 of cups symbolizing abundance. So this is a very richly loving, loyal and faithful person to have around. Now, interestingly, one can look for the shadow side of the court cards when one is researching these cards. And the third of the 3 minor arcana cards connected with the Queen of Cups is the 10 of Swords, the card of ruin. You may also be interested to know that the traditional mythical or historical figure associated with the Queen of Cups was Judith in the Bible. Now, Judith is the woman who seduced and decapitated an enemy general on the eve of a battle, thus saving the children of Israel. So this is really quite strong stuff. That's quite a strong move. And I think that at the back of the picture over the years, there has been a slight awareness of a shadow side to the Queen of Cups. What are we to make of the association with Queen of Cups with the 10 of Swords? I think it's because the reversed Queen of Cups, or the reversal of this energy, can be a crazy-making thing. There can be too much dreaminess, too much illusion, or there could even be a sort of inflated and unhealthy attitude to love and romance. So this could be a character who could lure you to your ruin. Now, I don't think there's any point in just listing all the great qualities of the court cards and saying how lovely they all are. I think it's good to have a bit of light and shade. I think it's quite exciting to know that there are negative resonances to these cards. So that for me is the worst that could be said of the Queen of Cups. And on that note, moving on to the Queen of Swords, here we have the court card that is probably the most clearly tricky of all the 16. If you go into the original deck of playing cards, this is the Queen of Spades. And the Queen of Spades, to this very day, is considered the one really bad luck card of the whole deck. And this bad luck aspect is still kind of hovering around her when she gets into the tarot. But let's look at the positive side. Queen of Swords, water of air. Air is the element of thought. The Queen of Swords is traditionally associated with Pallas Athene, the Greek goddess. And what she symbolized was the superiority of intellect over brute force. She defeated the war god Ares. And that was very, very important for the ancient Greeks, this idea of the power of the mind, the power of thought, the power of clear thinking. So that's the absolute, the best energy that you get from the Queen of Swords. The Queen of Swords is acknowledged by many, many traditions to be a widow. She's wearing this little tassel on her wrist, which I believe symbolizes being a widow. She's acknowledged to be someone who has suffered. But on the other hand, it seems that she has not allowed her suffering to get the better of her. And she has carried on in life and found ways of being strong and indeed successful. Let's look at the associations with the minor arcana cards. Okay, the first one she's associated with is the 3 of Swords, sorrow. That's what we've heard about. But she's also associated with the 2 of Swords, which really means peace, peace restored. And the 10 of Coins, which really symbolizes wealth and security and dynasty. So this is a woman who can get her life together and really come out on top. Now, I think if I'm reading this drawing by Pamela Coleman Smith and asking myself, what do I see in the image? Well, she's very high up, isn't she? We don't see a lot of land. We see a lot of clouds. It feels like she's almost sitting in the clouds, which suggests perhaps not being very much a part of ordinary life, being a little bit above it all and maybe a little bit unapproachable. I see her looking clear-sightedly ahead and lifting up her hand as if in judgment. So like her husband, the King of Swords, she seems to be a wise judge. She doesn't seem to be very in her body. She seems to be sort of almost fused with her throne here. She seems to be sort of slightly turning to stone. I think the Queen of Swords, to sum up, can be a good ally, but she's probably a dangerous enemy. Okay, last but not least, the Queen of Pentacles. She is water of earth, Queen of Pentacles. Now, Aleister Crowley, who I must say I don't agree with on everything. I think he's a bit mad, was a bit mad. But he was quite interesting about these water of earth, water of water, fire of air, elemental combinations that we find in the court cards. And he felt that each of these elemental combinations suggested an environment. So, for example, the King of Batons is air of fire, which for Crowley meant the airy part of fire. So he thought that meant the sun, because the sun is the fire that you see like up in the air. And he gave 16 of these environments, and each environment told you something about the cards, and they're really interesting. So the Queen of Pentacles, being water of earth, Crowley said, well, the watery part of the earth, what is that? And he thought that was the fields. So here we see Queen of Pentacles in her garden. And it's all very much about growth, fertility, a peaceful way of being in the world, in nature. I think the Queen of Pentacles reminds us of the Empress and other Earth Mother figures. I think she reminds us a bit of another goddess, the Virgin Mary. The way she looks at this pentacle here is sort of reverent, as if she's holding a holy baby. Pentacles seem to be symbols of money or material things, that the everyday part of life, of being on earth, of being incarnated. But the suit of pentacles, the family of pentacles in the Rider-Waite-Smith is very charming and rather gentle and very positive in atmosphere. And they seem to be suggesting that the earthly, the material part of life can be spiritualized. And I think that's especially true with the Queen. There's this wonderful rabbit in the corner, a great Pamela touch. And again, the Queen of Pentacles rabbit tends to, be associated with her, just like the black cat is with the Queen of Batons. What can we find out from the association of this card with minor arcana cards, according to the Golden Dawn? Well, one of the cards she's associated with is the Ten of Batons. Now, Ten of Batons is really the card of burden. And I think if we're looking for a sort of a shadow side of the Queen of Pentacles, this is not someone for whom freedom is really something to be aspired to. I think that she, while being generous and nurturing and supportive, and probably very capable, and while being probably very connected to family, she's someone who probably doesn't necessarily offer freedom to the people she's connected with. What I mean by that is she might be the sort of mother who's quite demanding. She might have ideas about what she wants her children to do and what she wants them to be like. As a partner, she might tie her partner down, either emotionally or in terms of place or in terms of life plans. I think the Queen of Pentacles is not a particularly fiery person, but is a fortunate person. And so it feels like she or he is someone who attracts wealth or stability or whatever that might be, or the good things of the earth, without particularly having to go out and chase them. And some people are like that, aren't they? Some people have to go out and grab things, and some people just sort of live their lives and radiate their qualities and just receive the good things of life. And I think that's really what the Queen of Pentacles does. So there you go. There were my 4 queens. I'll be back before long with 4 knights and then 4 pages. Bye.